As the congressional debate over gun control flares up yet again, we regret to report the murder of a wife and her 2 children by their husband and father. When his 10-year-old son came to investigate the commotion, the father shot him too.
I got a message for all you folks out there in Radio Land. So sit tight and bend an ear. Now's the time for action. Our society is rotten to the core. I'm talking to all the fine, upstanding folks got their welfare cut, got their jobs pulled out from under them. Yeah, you know what to do. Now's the time. Do it. Your son. Send him on his way to heaven by your own hand. It's not too late if you act fast.
Don't touch that dial now, we're just getting started.
PT is one of the most infamous horror games to ever release, whether that be its style of horror or its surprising cancellation that kind of came out of nowhere. It left a pretty big mark on the horror genre as well as the gaming industry, even till this day. Despite being released in 2014, PT is still regarded by many people as being the scariest gaming experience of all time, and I even made a video discussing this last year. On December 27th, 2024, I uploaded a 16-minute deep dive on PT. Not only was it a video that, looking back on it, wasn't really that well put together, but on top of that, I feel that I kind of barely scratched the surface on what PT actually is. So with that, along with the year 2025 starting to wrap up, I thought it would be a great idea to revisit and reflect on one of my favorite horror experiences of all time, analyzing it with a set of fresh eyes, and going more in depth on why this game worked on a fundamental level 10 years later. But let's slow down. What if you have no idea what PT even is? You're probably thinking, what even is this and why is it so special? Well, let's talk about that.
Watch out. The gap in the door. It's a separate reality. The only me is me. I'm sure the only you is you.
The game introduces itself with an ominous quote, a quote that seemingly challenges the player's psyche, while also giving me an existential crisis. We wake up on the floor, coming to a very iconic door. This very door is the gap into the separate reality and plays into the main theme of this game, the theme being, what the f is going on? You walk through the door and are met with a dimly lit hallway. It looks dilapidated, cockroaches crawling around every crevice, giving off an eerie vibe. You make your way past a radio reading a news story of several fathers murdering their entire families.
It was just a game. The girl was found shot once in the chest from point-blank range. There was another family shot to death in the same state last month, and in December last year, a man used a rifle and meat cleaver to murder his entire family. In each case, the perpetrators were fathers.
Before you then descend down a staircase to arrive back where you started. Confusion is a factor that greatly amplifies PT's sense of horror. Confusion in a horror game is such an effective way to get players to care about their surroundings, because when we have no idea what's going on around us while playing, it causes us to pay attention a lot more to our environments in search for answers. And that, mixed with PT's brilliant environmental storytelling, gives us the opportunity to ask these questions instead of the game feeding the questions to us. It's not in your face, it's not obvious what's happened here, but it's something you'll have to piece together while playing. After traveling once again down the same hallway, you will hear the same radio playing the exact newscast you heard earlier. There's also a very important piece of information revealed near the end, that being when the neighbors called 911 to report this crime, they noticed the father listening to the radio.
Police arriving on scene after neighbors called 911 found the father in his car listening to the radio.
This might seem like some random newscast simply there to build an eerie atmosphere, but it'll actually play a heavy role on the game's narrative, which I will elaborate on later. Continuing down the hallway and descending downstairs, it's more of the same, with minor discrepancies. The first notable event to happen in this game comes on the third iteration. The door you've been walking through is seemingly closed. Walking up to it, it's locked, and you backtrack and you now notice that the same door that was being banged on previously is suddenly open. You go to investigate, in which this happens. This is Lisa.
Slut dina ögon. Låt dina öron lyssna till radion. Hör du min röst? Kan du höra din egen själs skrik? Låt oss välja. Min röst som förtäljer framtiden, eller?
I still remember how I felt when I first experienced this moment, the sheer amount of dread seeing Lisa standing at the end of the hallway. Sure, I've experienced moments like this in horror games at least a gajillion times, but PT feels different even till this day. Walking up to Lisa, she disappears, only leaving a trail of cockroaches behind her. The most notable event that comes after this is on the 5th walkthrough, when you enter the door that once held Lisa, now wide open. And walking in, you find a weird looking hole in the wall as well as discovering this in the sink. I don't know what this is, except for it being some kind of fetus looking thing that is somehow alive and crying, but what follows up after this, however, on the 9th loop is something truly disturbing. I'll just let it play out because no amount of words can convey the terror in this one sequence. This very moment solidified why PT is the scariest game I've ever played, even 10 years later after its release. Maybe it's the fact I know so much about this game's story and what this scene means in the context of the lore, but I think one of its main reasons goes to its suffocating atmosphere that's built prior to this moment. The confusion from your repeating surroundings, the repetitive sound design of the raindrops and lamp squeaking in the distance. And while that creates, discomfort, the main reason the scene is effective, along with all of PT as a whole, is due to our innate fear of the unknown and how PT leverages that over us. I have to reiterate this, but PT was released by complete nobodies, and there is no information on this game. So with the game itself being confusing and cryptic, along with its actual history being confusing, I find it's the reason why this kind of terror is yet to be replicated. Because sad as it is to say, releasing a groundbreaking free demo silently would not work today, as it's simply such a huge risk. And I guess that this goes to show Kojima's genius and his willingness to innovate, even at the cost of it potentially not working. In preparation for this video, I was scouring around reading information on Kojima and stumbled upon an interview he did while talking about OD, a spiritual successor to PT. He was asked what even is OD, in which he states, "I can't exactly say what it is yet, nor do I know if it'll work out. We've created stealth games and delivery games which were unlike anything before, but system-wise, they were similar to other games. This time we're trying to change the service model from the ground up, so it should be quite challenging. We've packed the trailer with full of hints, so if you keep thinking about it, you might figure it out." End quote. So in light of that quote, besides the obvious terrifying shit of Lisa and the looping hallways, what else does PT do that makes it stand out as much as it does? While following the terrifying fridge sequence, we find ourselves walking down the same hallway, except everything is colored in a devilish red. Our speed has suddenly picked up, and now we're speeding down a contorted version of the hallways we had familiarized ourselves previously with. While doing this and repeating time after time, we stop and notice a slight hole in a wall, a hole that we actually could see prior to this in the bathroom. Looking through it, we don't really see anything, but we hear something truly disturbing.
I got a message for all you folks out there in radio land. Now's the time for action. Our society is rotten to the core. I'm talking to all the fine, upstanding folks got their welfare cut, got their jobs pulled out from under us. You know what to do. Now's the time. Do it.
This is what PT does. that makes it stand out compared to any other horror game. Everything that happens in PT that's memorable is built on the fact that it shatters your expectations, and top that off with, again, an unknown studio with an overall ambiguity. It created a truly surreal and terrifying experience that I have yet to find in any new horror games that have come out. Another element that makes PT special is its narrative and ending, as well as what it took to achieve it. While experiencing PT for the first time, one might gather that there isn't really a narrative, because factually speaking, there kinda isn't one, or at least not one in the traditional sense. Most games obviously follow a set routine for its story. You start off with point A, getting to know the characters, their motives and beliefs before seeing them take on some kind of task, ultimately leading to point B, where usually they wrap everything up, shown in point A, together into a comprehensible and fluent story. Yeah, PT is like not even close to that, because PT is not a fluent experience you can experience from point A to point B, because nothing is ever explicitly told to you. It's only up to you to figure things out for yourself, so I guess that only leaves us with one thing left to do. What does PT actually mean? PT isn't a horror story. It's a tragic story.
The day of the crime, the father went to the trunk of his car, retrieved the rifle, and shot his wife as she was cleaning up the kitchen after lunch. When his 10-year-old son came to investigate the commotion, the father shot him too. His 6-year-old daughter had the good sense to hide in the bathroom, but reports suggest he lured her out by telling her it was just a game. The girl was found shot once in the chest from point-blank range. The mother, who he shot in the stomach, was pregnant at the time.
This is Lisa, the wife of this man and the woman that haunts you throughout the entire game. She appears around this dilapidated house watching you, sometimes even projecting real-time shadows in front of you, or plain out possessing you. Once you meet her for the first time, as well as getting jump scared by her numerous times, it's easy to assume that, boom, Lisa is the villain because scary ghost woman keeps scaring me, but it's not that simple or true. If you've listened to anything I've been saying, PT is not meant to be straightforward, and that even goes for its characters, even your own. It's the reason why when you boot up the game, it asks you that weird question. Are you really you? Because you factually have no idea who you truly are, or who anyone is, or what anything is, point blank period. But playing through PT for a second time, fully analyzing everything after achieving the ending and figuring out it's a Silent Hill, or was a Silent Hill reboot, things become a bit more apparent of what's going on. The radio you stumble upon that was once seen as a cool but maybe meaningless way to convey terror actually plays a bigger part than one might have expected. Anyone who's delved into Silent Hill will recognize that radios are a sign of danger. In Silent Hill 2, when James encounters his first creature to fight, we hear the static of a radio. So with that being said, one could gather that the radio must be very important, and it is, especially in Lisa's context. When you walk through the halls, you hear the terrifying news story of a father murdering his entire family, including his pregnant wife. And when you look through the peephole, you hear the sound of a man murdering a woman with the radio voice almost beckoning him to do so.
Now's the time. Do it.
That woman was Lisa, and walking into the bathroom after hearing this terror, you'll witness this.
You got fired, so you drowned your sorrows in booze. She had to get a part-time job working a grocery store cash register. Only reason she could earn a wage at all is the manager liked how she looked in a skirt. You remember, right? Exactly 10 months back.
This baby that seemed unimportant and just a way to convey some kind of body horror is actually Lisa's child, and it talks to the perspective as if we're the person that did this. And it explains some pretty sad backstory. Lisa was a mother, a regular woman with children, but something snapped within her husband, causing him to turn to alcohol and to then murder his entire family. Now, with what the baby said, how the, quote, manager liked the way she looked in a skirt, it could imply that the father was feeling some sort of jealousy which may have driven him to do what he did. But if I'm being honest, I don't think that's the case. I think the main reason why he murdered Lisa, as well as his entire family, was because he was being controlled.
And shot his wife.
This is a sentence you can find etched to the top of the same door you've been progressing through numerous times. It doesn't make a lot of sense at face value, which, I mean, it's obvious, it's not like it's signed by anyone, but using this one quote actually explains a lot about what happened in this game, and the first step to understanding this is by trying to figure out who wrote it in the first place. And I believe it all points to Lisa's husband. I just finished talking about Lisa, but what about this man? Her husband. What do we know about him, considering he is pretty important in the context of the story?
The day of the crime, the father went to the trunk of his car, retrieved the rifle, and shot his wife as she was cleaning up the kitchen after lunch.
This is the first thing you're subjected to when you start the game, a radio. And as I said before, it seems minute, but think back to that quote. "Forgive me, Lisa, there's a monster inside of me." Well, it paints a different picture. As stated before, when Lisa's husband murdered her, something snapped inside of him, and I think whatever caused that snap wasn't really him. It was something controlling him. So with that being said, we can assume that this message is from Lisa's husband apologizing for what he's done because he's not really himself. Yet again, another callback to the beginning of the game where it asks, "Are you sure the only you is you?" Following this, eventually in the game you will be jump scared by Lisa waking up in the same room you began in. Traversing to the back of the room, you will find a paper bag, and it will speak, saying this to you.
I walked. I could do nothing but walk. And then I saw me walking in front of myself. But it wasn't really me. Watch out. The gap in the door. It's a separate reality. The only me is me. I'm sure the only you is you.
Not only is this yet again another callback to the beginning of the game, but if we take these words and apply it to Lisa's husband, it sort of tells the whole story. The father was being controlled. He might have literally seen a version of himself that wasn't him, and when the tragedy struck with the murder, he apologized, as Lisa's spirit continues to haunt these dormant halls. But what? What was controlling Lisa's husband in the first place that led him to do what he did? Well, to put it simply, it was him in the car listening to the radio. And that was Silent Hill, or PT, a forgotten, cancelled, and notorious iteration that never came to be that has left marks on the horror gaming industry despite its cancellation. Looking back on it 10 years later, or 11 years later, since 2026 is around the corner, it still feels surreal to be looking back on it and studying it. The way it presented itself and meshed with the community, it all feels way ahead of its time despite it being 10 years in the past. PT is a weird game if it wasn't clear from the crazy story and lore or by the fact I've said it like numerous times in this video, but it was also weird in the way that it trusted the player because a lot of games don't really do that, or at least not in the same way as PT. And the way I mean it is this: the fact that it never really spoon-fed the players any information. information. Instead, it built a rich enough environment that it made players compelled to seek out information. PT wasn't designed to be solved, which was the main reason why it took everyone to gather on platforms like Reddit to theorize and extrapolate what it is you had to do to complete it. That is special and is a true demonstration of the importance of this game. It's psychologically intense, making you ask questions about every little thing and making you feel that the more you descend down this looping hallway, the more you descend into madness. It also plays around with common horror game tropes, flipping them on their heads. Lisa was never the villain no matter how many times she stalked you or attacked you. Not even the father who committed the murders. These are all tropes that have been flipped on their heads. The thing about this, however, is the way PT scares us isn't from these tropes, you know, the villains being innocent and all that. The horror itself actually stems from the loss of control we experience as players, that loss being our expectations. It's special and it's effective, and it's the reason why many others as well as myself continue to discuss this game 10 years later. Bringing up the same question time and time again: is who we are really us? Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope it was a tad bit entertaining or had some kind of information to chew on. If there's anything that I missed or that you want to add on to, feel free to leave a comment, because I love reading guys' comments, especially when it's like comments discussing, you know, this game. I hope you all stay blessed and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Much love, y'all.
Watch out. The gap in the door. It's a separate reality. The only me is me. Are you sure the only you is you?